3 bodies, buried beneath the floor of a terraced house in Bethnal Green, wrapped in old army blankets and lime. Detective Inspector Thomas Webb stood in the cellar doorway, watching the mortuary attendants work, and felt the cold London morning seep into his bones. It was March 1951, 6 years after the war ended, but the house still smelled of it. Damp plaster, coal dust, and something else. Death, old and patient. "Found the owner upstairs, sir," Sergeant Collins said behind him. "Arthur Hayes, 42 years old, former infantry. He's sitting at the kitchen table drinking tea. Says he did it. Says they wouldn't stop screaming." Webb climbed the narrow stairs, each step creaking under his weight. The kitchen was small, sparse. A single plate in the sink, a kettle on the stove, ration books stacked neatly on the windowsill. Arthur Hayes sat with his hands folded, staring at nothing. He was thin, almost skeletal, with graying hair and eyes that looked past Webb to some distant horizon. "Mr. Hayes," Webb said, pulling out a chair, "I need you to tell me what happened here." Arthur didn't blink. "I killed them. 3 people. Mary was first, 1948. Then William, 1949. Then Ruth, last year. I buried them all in the cellar. You'll find the tools in the shed outside." His voice was flat, mechanical, like he was reading from a menu. Webb had interrogated hundreds of men, but this was different. There was no bravado, no fear, no emotion at all. Just emptiness. "Why did you do it, Mr. Hayes?" Arthur looked at him then, really looked at him, and Webb saw something flicker in those dead eyes. "The screaming, Inspector. I couldn't make it stop any other way." Collins moved to cuff him, but Webb raised a hand. "Tell me about the war, Arthur. Where did you serve?" "Dunkirk, Alamein, Italy. 5 years. I came home in 46, but I never really left, did I?" Arthur smiled then, a terrible, broken thing. "The war's still there, Inspector. Every night, every single night." They took him away, and Webb stood in the kitchen looking at the neat ration books, the single cup in the sink, the life of a man who'd been dying since 1946. The war ended, but not for Arthur Hayes, not for any of them. If this story hits you, subscribe and share your thoughts. Let's begin. Arthur Hayes returned to London on a gray October morning in 1946, carrying everything he owned in a canvas kit bag. Waterloo Station was chaos, soldiers everywhere, families crying, reunions, joy, relief. Arthur walked through it all like a ghost. His mother was dead, buried during the Blitz. His father remarried, moved to Essex, sent a letter saying there was no room. Arthur read it on the train and felt nothing. The city was ruins. Whole streets flattened, skeletal buildings with windows like hollow eyes, rubble piled high, children playing on bomb sites. Arthur found a room in Bethnal Green, a terraced house split into flats, owned by a widow named Mrs. Edith Palmer. She was 70, kind, reminded him of his mother. "You're a soldier, then?" she asked when he knocked on her door, looking at his kit bag. "Was," Arthur said. "Welcome home, love. 3rd floor, 5 shillings a week. There's a shared bathroom on the landing, and no noise after 10. You look thin. I'll bring you some soup later." The flat was 1 room, with a bed, a chair, a hot plate. A window overlooking the street where children kicked a football made of rags. Arthur unpacked his kit bag. 2 shirts, shaving kit, a photograph of his platoon taken in Italy. 18 men. Only 4 came home. He put the photograph face down in the drawer. He tried to work. Got a job at the docks, loading cargo, 6 days a week. The foreman was a veteran too, missing 3 fingers from his left hand. "You'll do fine, lad. Keep your head down, do the work, don't complain. We all got demons. Best not to talk about 'em." Arthur didn't talk. He worked, came home, ate Mrs. Palmer's soup, climbed into bed. And then the screaming started. Every night. The moment he closed his eyes, he was back. Dunkirk beach, the Stukas diving, men burning in the water. El Alamein, the shelling, bodies blown apart. His best mate Jenkins with his guts spilling out, begging Arthur to shoot him. Italy, the village they cleared house by house. The German soldier who looked 16, who Arthur bayoneted because his rifle jammed, who died crying for his mother. Arthur would wake up screaming, thrashing, Mrs. Palmer banging on the door. "Mr. Hayes, are you all right? Shall I call a doctor?" "I'm fine, Mrs. Palmer, just a nightmare, sorry for the noise." But he wasn't fine. The nightmares got worse. He started drinking to sleep, cheap gin from the corner shop, but it didn't help. He'd wake at 3 in the morning, drenched in sweat, and sit by the window until dawn, watching the empty street, counting the hours until he could work again. His foreman noticed. "You look like death, Hayes. You sleeping?" "Not really." "See a doctor. Army must have something for that." Arthur went to the veterans' office in Whitechapel, waited 3 hours in a queue of broken men, then saw a doctor for 5 minutes. The doctor was 50, well fed, hadn't served. He looked at Arthur's file, barely glanced at him. "Says here you served 5 years. Infantry. Any physical injuries?" "No, sir, just the nightmares. Can't sleep, can't stop seeing." "Shell shock," the doctor interrupted. "We don't use that term anymore. Battle fatigue. It's common. You need to move on, Mr. Hayes. The war's over. Find a girl, start a family, keep busy. Time heals all wounds. Next." Arthur left with nothing. No pills, no help, no hope. Just the same advice everyone gave. Buck up, man. Be grateful you survived. Others had it worse. Mrs. Palmer tried to help in her way. She'd bring him tea, sit with him, talk about the weather, the neighbours, anything to fill the silence. "There's a young lady downstairs, Mary, works nights. Pretty thing, but a bit loud. And Frank in the flat next to yours. Friendly chap, bit of a rogue. You should get to know people, Mr. Hayes. It helps." Arthur nodded, smiled, thanked her. But he didn't want to know people. He wanted the screaming to stop. Frank Miller knocked on Arthur's door on a Thursday evening in January 1947. Arthur opened it, found a man in his 30s, sharp suit, slicked back hair, smile like a knife. "Arthur Hayes, right? Your neighbour, Frank. Mrs. Palmer said you're looking for extra work. I might have something." Arthur hesitated. "What kind of work?" "Moving things, driving. Nothing dodgy, mate, just helping me with my business. I deal in goods, food, clothes, cigarettes. You know how it is, rationing and all. People need things. I get things. Simple. Pays good, cash in hand, no questions asked." Arthur knew what that meant. Black market. But he needed the money, needed the distraction, needed anything to fill the hours when he wasn't working. "All right, when do I start?" Frank grinned. "Tomorrow night. I'll knock for you. Wear dark clothes." They drove to warehouses on the docks, loaded boxes into Frank's van, delivered them to pubs, shops, private homes. Arthur didn't ask what was in the boxes. Frank paid him 10 shillings a night, twice what he made at the docks. After a month, Frank started talking. "You're good at this, Arthur. Quiet, reliable, don't talk, don't ask questions. I like that. You served, yeah?" "5 years. Thought so. You've got that look. My brother served, died in Normandy. I stayed home, reserved occupation, munitions factory. Sometimes I feel guilty about that, you know, but someone had to keep the country running." Arthur said nothing. Frank lit a cigarette, offered one to Arthur. He took it. "You sleep all right, Arthur? You look rough." "Nightmares. About the war?" "Always about the war." Frank nodded slowly, blew smoke out the van window. "I know a bloke, doctor, not official. He's got stuff that helps. Morphine from army surplus. Quiets the mind, helps you sleep. Interested?" Arthur should have said no, should have walked away. But he was so tired, so desperate for silence, for one night without screaming. "How much?" "First one's free, mate. You're a veteran. You earned it." Frank gave him a small glass vial and a syringe, showed him how to use it. Not too much, just a little. You'll sleep like a baby, I promise. That night, Arthur injected the morphine. The effect was immediate, miraculous. The screaming faded, the memories blurred, and for the first time since Dunkirk, Arthur felt peace. He slept for 12 hours, dreamless, silent. He woke up wanting more. Frank supplied him, at first for free, then for a price. Arthur paid with the money from their night work, then with his wages from the docks. The morphine became routine. Every night, a small dose, enough to sleep, enough to function. He wasn't an addict, he told himself. He was medicating. The doctors wouldn't help, so he helped himself. Frank never judged. We all need something to get by, Arthur. You got your medicine, I got my business. Mrs. Palmer's got her church. Mary downstairs, she's got her work. We're all just surviving, mate. Mary. Arthur had seen her a few times, passing on the stairs. Young, maybe 25. Bleach blonde hair, too much makeup, skirts too short. She worked nights, brought men back to her flat. Loud voices, laughter, sometimes arguments. Arthur tried to ignore it, but the noise bled through the thin walls. One evening, Arthur mentioned it to Frank. The girl downstairs keeps me awake. Can't sleep even with the morphine when she's got clients. Frank shrugged. Mary's all right. She's just trying to make a living, same as us. War left a lot of women with no options, you know. Her husband died in Burma. No pension, no family. What's she supposed to do? I know. I don't blame her. Just wish it was quieter. Frank gave him a look, something calculating. You ever think about moving? Getting out of the city, somewhere quiet? On what I make, no chance. Fair enough. Just keep your head down, Arthur. Don't let the noise get to you. You're doing well, considering. But the noise did get to him. Mary's clients got louder, more frequent. Arguments turned into shouting. Shouting turned into screaming. And every time Arthur heard a woman scream, he was back in Italy, the village, the woman they found in the cellar with her throat cut, the children dead upstairs. The morphine stopped working. He increased the dose, but the screaming came through anyway. He'd lie in bed, hands over his ears, rocking back and forth, whispering to himself, "It's over, it's over, the war's over." But it wasn't. Not for Arthur Hayes. Not yet. The night it happened was April 19th, 1948. Arthur remembered the date because it was the anniversary of his first kill in the war. A German soldier in North Africa, face to face, bayonet through the ribs. He'd injected his morphine dose an hour earlier, lay in bed waiting for the silence. But Mary was downstairs with a client, shouting first. The man's voice, drunk, aggressive. "I paid you, didn't I? So shut your mouth and do what I say." Mary's voice, defiant. "Get out. I don't care what you paid. I'm not doing that. Get out of my flat." Then the sound of something breaking. Glass, maybe a bottle. Mary screamed. Not a theatrical scream, a real one. Terror and pain mixed together. Arthur's hand started shaking. The scream echoed in his skull, merged with other screams. Jenkins dying in the sand, the woman in the Italian village, the boy soldier calling for his mother. Arthur got out of bed, pulled on his trousers, walked downstairs in bare feet. He didn't think, didn't plan. His body moved on instinct, the same instinct that kept him alive for 5 years. Mary's door was ajar. Inside, the man had her against the wall, hand around her throat, her face turning red. "Let her go," Arthur said quietly from the doorway. The man turned, big, docker maybe, 40-odd, reeking of gin. "Sod off, mate. This is between me and the whore." Arthur stepped inside. "Let her go, now." The man laughed, released Mary, turned fully toward Arthur. "You want to go, do you? Come on then, soldier boy." He swung, clumsy, drunk. Arthur ducked, muscle memory from training, from 100 fights in back alleys and bombed-out buildings. His fist connected with the man's jaw hard. The man staggered, fell against the table. Arthur was on him, hands around his throat, squeezing. And then he wasn't in Mary's flat anymore. He was in Italy, in the village, clearing houses, Germans everywhere, kill or be killed. The man's face blurred, became the enemy, became every enemy. Arthur squeezed harder, felt the cartilage crack, felt the body go limp. When he came back, the man was dead on the floor. Mary was in the corner, hands over her mouth, eyes wide. Arthur stood up slowly, looked at his hands, looked at her. "I'm sorry," he said. "I was trying to help." Mary backed away from him. "You killed him! Oh God, you killed him! He was hurting you. You didn't have to kill him. I could have handled it. I've handled worse." She was crying now, panicking. "The police will come. They'll hang you. They'll hang me for being a prostitute." Arthur grabbed her shoulders, firm but not rough. "Listen to me, Mary. Nobody knows he's here. Nobody saw him come in. We get rid of the body. Nobody asks questions. These men, they're invisible, same as you, same as me. Nobody cares." Mary stared at him, breathing hard, then slowly nodded. "The cellar. Mrs. Palmer never goes down there, hasn't for years, too many stairs." They carried the body down together, wrapped in Mary's rug. Arthur found a shovel in the shed, dug into the dirt floor. His hands remembered the rhythm. He dug trenches, dug graves, dug foxholes. This was just another hole. It took 3 hours. When he climbed back upstairs, dawn was breaking. Mary was sitting on her bed, face pale. "Thank you," she whispered, "for trying to help. I know you were trying to help." Arthur nodded. "Nobody can know. Nobody will, I promise." He went back to his room, washed his hands, injected more morphine, lay in bed. And for the first time in 2 years, the screaming stopped. Not because of the drug, because when he closed his eyes, all he heard was silence. The same silence that filled the German boy's eyes when the light went out. The same silence Arthur had been searching for since Dunkirk. He slept for 14 hours, dreamless. The second one was William Perkins, November 1949. He lived 2 floors down, a drunk, unemployed, beat his wife until she left him. William liked to shout at night, pound on walls, throw bottles in the hallway. The neighbors complained to Mrs. Palmer, but she was old, frightened of confrontation. "Just ignored him, dears. He'll tire himself out." But William didn't tire. One night, he kicked Arthur's door, shouting about the noise. Ironic, since Arthur barely made a sound. "You bloody soldiers, think you're special, think you can do what you want. Come out here, I'll show you what's what." Arthur opened the door. William was there, swaying, broken bottle in hand. "Fancy yourself hard, do you? I didn't serve because I was smart enough to dodge it. While you lot played heroes, I stayed home, had a proper life." Something in Arthur's chest tightened. Not anger exactly, more like recognition. William was screaming, just like all the others, just like the voices in Arthur's head. And Arthur knew how to make screaming stop. "Come inside, William. Let's talk properly." William stumbled in, still ranting. Arthur closed the door, picked up the chair, brought it down on William's skull. Once, twice. The screaming stopped. Arthur dragged him to the cellar, buried him next to the docker. Frank noticed something was different. "You seem better, Arthur. Sleeping well?" "Better than before." "Good. Keep it up. You're valuable to me, mate. Don't want to lose you." But Frank's eyes lingered, suspicious. One evening, after a job, he mentioned it casually. "Funny thing, couple of blokes went missing from the neighborhood. Nobody's asking questions, though. That's the thing about people like us, Arthur. We're invisible until we're not." Arthur said nothing. Frank lit a cigarette, watched the smoke curl. Just be careful, yeah? Mrs. Paula's a good woman. Hate to see her hurt. The third was Ruth Turner, September 1950. She moved into the flat next door, a widow, early 30s, cried every single night, sobbing through the thin walls, hours on end. Arthur tried to ignore it, increased his morphine, but the crying seeped through everything. He knocked on her door one evening. "Excuse me, miss, are you all right? I hear you crying." Ruth opened the door, eyes red, face blotchy. "I'm sorry. I try to be quiet. My husband died 2 years ago in Palestine. I can't stop thinking about him." "I understand," Arthur said gently. "I lost people too. The war takes and takes." They talked. Ruth made tea, told him about her husband, their plans, the future that died with him. Arthur listened, nodded, felt something like sympathy. When she cried again, he put a hand on her shoulder. "I just want it to stop," Ruth whispered. "The pain, the memories. I just want silence." Arthur understood that better than anything. "I know how to make it stop." He told her about morphine, about sleep, about peace. She asked if he had any. He did. He injected her himself, gentle, careful. She smiled as it took effect, closed her eyes. "Thank you. This is what I needed." Arthur watched her breathing slow, watched her slip into sleep. And then, almost without thinking, he pressed the pillow over her face, held it there. She didn't struggle, didn't wake. The morphine was too strong. When he lifted the pillow, she was gone, at peace, no more crying. He buried her in the cellar with the others. Mrs. Palmer noticed Ruth's absence after a week. "Have you seen Miss Turner, Mr. Hayes? She hasn't paid her rent." "She mentioned going to stay with family up north," Arthur lied smoothly. "Said she needed a change." "Oh, poor dear. I hope she finds happiness." Arthur nodded. He'd given Ruth what she wanted. Silence. The same gift he'd given himself, one body at a time. He tried to get help once more. January 1951. Went back to the Veterans Office, saw a different doctor. This one was younger, had served in Italy. "I'm having dark thoughts," Arthur said carefully, "about hurting people, about ending things." The doctor looked at him, sighed. "Mr. Hayes, you need to understand. The war changed us all. You're not special. Thousands of men feel like you do. But we can't mollycoddle everyone. You need to pull yourself together. Find a purpose. The country needs men like you to rebuild, not to wallow." Arthur left. Nobody would help. Nobody cared. Behind closed doors, he could be anyone, do anything, and the world would never notice. He was invisible, just like his victims. The water leak started in February 1951. A pipe burst in the cellar, flooded the ground floor flats. Mrs. Palmer called a plumber, Mr. Davis, a cheerful Welshman who whistled while he worked. Arthur watched from upstairs, heart pounding, as Davis descended into the cellar with his tools. 20 minutes later, Davis came running up, face white. "Mrs. Palmer, call the police. There's bodies down there, 3 of them, buried in the floor." The police arrived within the hour. D.I. Webb, Sergeant Collins, constables, mortuary attendants. They cordoned off the house, evacuated the residents, began excavating the cellar. Arthur stood in his room waiting. He knew it was over. Part of him was relieved. Webb knocked on his door at 3 in the afternoon. "Mr. Arthur Hayes, I need you to come with me." Arthur didn't resist. They sat him in the kitchen, gave him tea. Webb pulled out a notebook. "Tell me what happened, Arthur." And Arthur did. All of it. The war, the nightmares, the morphine, the screaming that never stopped. How each person he killed brought him closer to silence. How he wasn't a monster, just a man trying to survive in a world that abandoned him. Webb listened, didn't interrupt. When Arthur finished, Webb closed his notebook, rubbed his eyes. "Why didn't you run? When the plumber found 'em, you could have left." "Where would I go? The war's inside me, Inspector. I can't run from that. Did you want to be caught? Arthur thought about that. I think I just wanted it to be over, one way or another. The trial was brief. Arthur pleaded guilty to 3 counts of murder. His barrister tried to argue diminished responsibility, brought in doctors who talked about shell shock, battle fatigue, psychiatric trauma. The prosecution painted him as a cold-blooded killer who used the war as an excuse. The jury deliberated for 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced him to death by hanging. In his cell at Pentonville Prison, Arthur had one final visitor. D.I. Webb, off duty, carrying cigarettes. They smoked together in silence for a while. Finally, Webb spoke. I served too, you know. North Africa. I have nightmares still. About the things we did, the things we saw. But I didn't kill anyone afterward. Arthur looked at him. You had help, didn't you? Family? A job that mattered? Someone who cared if you lived or died? Webb said nothing, because Arthur was right. I'm not asking for sympathy, Inspector. I killed 3 people. I deserve this. But I want you to know something. Arthur leaned forward. In that cellar, when I was burying them, I didn't hear the screaming anymore. For the first time since Dunkirk, it was quiet, completely quiet. That's all I ever wanted. Arthur Hayes was hanged on June 12, 1951, at 8 in the morning. His last words were, "Tell Mrs. Palmer I'm sorry. She was kind." Webb attended the execution, then walked through London afterward. Bethnal Green, Whitechapel, Stepney. Everywhere he saw them. Veterans, gaunt, hollow-eyed, sitting in doorways, standing on corners, staring at nothing. Men the war broke and the peace forgot. How many of them, Webb wondered, were one bad night away from becoming Arthur Hayes? He stopped at a pub, ordered whiskey, drank it in one swallow. The barman, missing an arm, nodded knowingly. Rough day? You could say that. War. Aftermath. The barman poured another. That's the worst part, mate. The war ends, but it doesn't. Not really. Not for us. Webb drank, paid, walked out into the grey London morning. Somewhere another Arthur Hayes was waking from another nightmare. Somewhere another scream was building in another broken mind. The war ended in 1945, but for thousands of men it never stopped. Behind closed doors, in terraced houses and council flats, in cellars and attics and locked rooms, the war continued, and nobody wanted to know.